I'm Graham Miller. I am the father in The Father and Son. And I was thinking about this. I think the very first race I watched was either probably the summer of 1990, I think. I was at university, it was summer holidays, we were all bored, I was sitting around with a couple of friends and they said, oh, Formula One's on, why don't we watch that? And my parents never watched any kind of sport on TV, so I was like, it never really occurred to me before then, and I just started watching, and pretty much I've been a kind of casual watcher of Formula One ever since, really. And Toby's my son, he's now 21.
Hello.
And as he got into his teenage years, he got more and more into Formula One, and then I started watching it with him because it was like a shared interest. Toby,
yes.
What's the first race you remember watching?
I don't remember the first race, but because you were always watching it, I remember seeing I definitely remember seeing Mark Webber's name on the TV, and people like Raikkonen and Grosjean, so probably like the 12, 13-ish. I definitely remember Mark Webber, and always seeing Lewis Hamilton as well. But the first season I probably watched and paid attention to was either 2017 or 2018.
Which was
I think 2018.
Mercedes dominance.
Yeah, and 2018 I think was when I was super invested in it, because I remember the sort of people not liking the Halo when it came around.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Lewis Hamilton, because he went from literally when you were 6 up till now.
Yeah,
so
he's still
here's a
continuously
kind of background.
He's always been there.
Oh, is this the 1990 championship up on your screen?
So I'll probably put this in the video so that people can see it. This is F1DB, which is this amazing database full of everything that ever happened in Formula One. And this is the 1990 season. So probably Britain, if you were watching it, it could have been the British.
Yeah, it was more likely to be a bit later, like
Hungary or Belgium.
Yeah, it was definitely. I actually cannot remember the race at all. I kind of remember vaguely Williams. Where were Williams at the time?
Williams, Thierry Boutsen, Riccardo Patrese. It could have been Hungary because Boutsen won that one for Williams. So if you remember Williams, it was probably Hungary.
Yeah, I mean, I more just remember it was like a really kind of lazy time. It was summer holidays. We all just stayed down.
Yeah, the 12th of August.
Between terms.
Yeah, it's absolutely classic.
There were just the three of us just sitting around, just doing nothing, drinking tea and I don't drink tea, but just sitting around.
Yeah.
But I don't remember the race at all. But then after that, I just kind of started watching completely casually, really, as and when it was on. Not the sort of watching that I do, which is planning my life around Formula One weekends. Yeah. So should we come up to date then and talk about the driver market for next year?
This is the 2023 driver lineup, which is kind of half boring.
Well, it kind of mirrors the actual racing. We know the top 3 teams are, in order at the moment until Mercedes overtake them: Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes.
Yeah. And
to be honest, there's zero drama in their driver market.
Yeah, Verstappen and Leclerc are on super long contracts until the end of time.
Hamilton's going to be there at least next year, and he's saying he's still got fire in his belly because he wants his 8th championship.
Yeah, and Russell's probably going to be there for a long time because
Russell's going to stay there, wait for Hamilton to retire and become world champion. That's his game plan. Let's be honest.
But he's in the same boat as Leclerc and Verstappen, being young and having a team that can fight for championships and trying to be at the top, basically.
So he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
The rest of it is utter chaos.
Yeah, actually, because I was going to say this picture has Norris and Ricciardo set in stone, but even though he's contracted, Ricciardo's kind of up in the air almost.
It's the worst kept secret in Formula One.
Of which there were 5 every single year, basically.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the news, basically Fernando Alonso was negotiating with Alpine. He wanted a 2-year contract. They offered him 1 year with an option to extend, and out of the blue, Vettel retired from the sport altogether, and Alonso went straight to Aston Martin because I think Lance Stroll, the father...
Lawrence is the father.
Lawrence is the father. Oh, I knew I'd get that wrong. Lawrence Stroll wants Aston Martin to be a world-beating team. So I think he's just recruiting ex-world champions to kind of form that team. So as soon as Vettel went, he needed another ex-world champion. Although actually Alonso's kind of team building and strategic planning is not great.
He's not a very long-term driver generally, is he? He started off at Renault, had 1 year at McLaren where he got beaten by Hamilton and went straight back to Renault, and then he went to Ferrari, And then as soon as Ferrari started being good again, he went to McLaren just as soon as they started being bad. And then as soon as McLaren started being good, he retired actually altogether. And now he's gone to Aston Martin.
But if you look at it from Lawrence's point of view, there's only 3 world champions on the grid. I'm frowning and looking at that. There's Max, Lewis and Fernando.
Next year, yeah. I mean, at the moment, you never know. Like Raikkonen could come out of retirement, but
Lewis has dominated it so much, and Rosberg has left.
Rosberg's probably the only one who's still of an age to actually come back if he wanted to, because the last one before that was like Button, who's like in his 40s now.
Yeah. So
Button's still got to serve a 5-place grid penalty for hitting Verline in 2017. At the Monaco Grand Prix, Button filled in for Alonso doing the Indy 500, and he hit Verline into the wall and got a 5-place grid penalty for the next race, but he never raced again. So it's still
God!
It's still to be served.
Oh God! I would have thought they'd give him a time penalty, or
I think it only applies in the season that he did it in, so I don't think it would apply. But it's still quite funny. It's one of those facts that people are like to say.
Anyway, so Alonso jumped from Alpine.
So, yes.
And then Alpine said, "Great, so we'll get Oscar Piastri in."
They actually said Piastri alongside Ocon, which is interesting.
Well, yeah, that's figures.
I think Ocon is definitely going to be there next year.
Piastri said no, which is
quite hilarious. It's bizarre.
I mean, I read obviously we're going to wait for it all to settle out, and I may be wrong, but I read a point of view from Alpine, and Oscar, I'm not going to try and say his surname.
Piastri?
No, the boss of Alpine.
Oh, Otmar Safnauer.
Otmar Safnauer, thank you.
Yes.
Basically, Alpine have poured millions into Piastri. I mean, I remember when, was it 2021, when Hamilton and Verstappen were bouncing off each other, and Christian Horner was doing the whole mind games thing. And at one point they did a photo shoot at a track. They had a track day and a photo shoot. Mm-hmm. And actually used some of the track time to set it up to prove that Hamilton was the bad guy.
Oh yeah, they did that with Albon. That was so silly.
But at the time they said that half day of track time cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to set up, because you've got to have laptops, you've got to have engineers, you've got to freight everything in there. And you look at what Piastri's done. He's been to Circuit of Americas, he's been all over the world, he's raced last year's car, he
did a whole season of Formula 2 and he won.
But even in this 2022 he's going to put in 5,000 miles in an Alpine.
Yeah.
And that must have cost them millions, so I can kind of see Alpine's point of view in that.
Well,
they've given him an F3 title. They've sponsored him to an F3 title. They've sponsored him to an F2 title. They've dropped probably low millions on him this year.
Yeah.
And for that investment, what are they seeing as a return?
They're seeing him basically say no, but they shouldn't have like assumed that he would race for them and tweeted it. I think that's more a failure of like the communications department.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But I mean, I can't remember which article it was, but I read this article that said this could actually shake up the whole sport.
Yeah, I think
because you look at like Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, all have young driver academies.
Yeah.
And they're all spending probably tens of millions on bringing young people up. Yeah. And if those young people can then go to the contracts board and go, oh, actually, I'm off. Sorry about the fact you've just invested £10 million in my career, but I want to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Then they're going to kind of look at that and go, is it worth it? Or are they going to make their contracts ironclad?
But at the same time, if you're a young driver, and Alpine are like, oh, don't worry, we'll definitely get you a seat, and then they keep signing 40-year-old Alonso, who is still pretty good, admittedly, but he is 40. You're kind of like, well, why am I in the Alpine Driver Academy? They've only got one team, and they're filling it with people who aren't me. And he won Formula 3 and Formula 2 in a row, and that's the sort of thing that, like, with Leclerc and Russell, just got them a seat straight off the bat.
Yeah. Because
they recognised that they're, like, their potential.
I mean, I think everybody was impatient. I think Piastri was impatient in going. Obviously, apparently he signed a contract with McLaren. Yeah. I think he should have waited for the Alonso negotiations to finish. I think Alpine were impatient in announcing they had Piastri when they didn't.
Yeah.
I think it's all a bit.
It's a bit. The
other elephant in the room that hasn't really been mentioned.
Yes.
Having put all this money into developing Piastri,
mm-hmm.
apparently Alpine were offering him a chance to loan him out to Williams for a season.
Yeah, I think I read that part of the thing was that he was unwilling to race for Williams, Piastri.
But then who's not going to be racing for Williams next year?
Well, Latifi's not, is he?
Oh, is it actually officially?
Well, no, but Williams signed Albon and announced that they've got Albon for next year. But they very pointedly didn't even mention Latifi's name.
Echoing silence.
They were just like, yeah, we've definitely got Albon next year.
Because
everyone said, what about Latifi? He's like, yeah, no, Albon's definitely racing for us.
So there's definitely... So probably behind the scenes, Williams and Alpine were talking, and Alpine were going, can you get our boy Oscar a bit of race experience?
Yeah. Maybe Williams didn't want him, because maybe Williams didn't want to be an Alpine B team.
I don't know. I mean,
because they're already associated with Mercedes.
He's a very highly rated driver, though.
Yeah, actually, and I suppose if the Albon's a Red Bull driver, isn't he? He's still got Red Bull on his helmet. So I guess Williams can't really turn down the money or anything.
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing I read was that if you actually look at it, Hamilton is unique in that he started in a race-winning team.
Yeah.
But like Verstappen was Toro Rosso.
Yeah.
Leclerc was Sauber?
Yeah, it was Sauber at the time.
Russell started in Williams. You know, the kind of the fresh young generation didn't all jump into amazing cars.
But
and just...
That's because Hamilton had a sort of an almost supernatural gift for picking the right team at the right time.
Yeah.
You know, when he was 11, he wanted to drive for McLaren. But if he had been 11 10 years later, he would have driven for them in like 2014 when they were terrible. So he has that sort of knack for it. So, and also I don't think there were like B teams back then, because that was sort of pre-Toro Rosso being a big thing.
Yeah, I think they were Minardi?
They were, yeah.
But basically there's no kind of shame in Oscar Piastri spending a season or two at Williams learning his trade.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, yes, he's a brilliant, gifted driver, but there's so much more to being...
Unless he was already talking with McLaren and thought he was a shoo-in there.
Which is weird, because they've got 2 drivers contracted already.
Yeah, and do McLaren really not want Ricciardo that much, if we assume they're going to keep Norris? It's really just, like, bizarre.
I mean, I don't see it, because I can get McLaren ditching Ricciardo. He's not happy there.
Yeah,
he's not doing well. Yeah. But McLaren have Norris in the same way that Red Bull are built around Verstappen and Ferrari are built around Leclerc.
Yeah, we've got these like teams that are built around one young, good driver that they can keep for like 5 years
and develop.
Yeah.
So if Piastri did go to McLaren, what would his role be exactly?
Yeah, he wouldn't be like. Would he want to be the number 2? But then, you know, it's a Formula 1 seat, isn't it? Can he really afford to be that picky?
Well, obviously he can, because he's turned down a shoe-in at Alpine.
Well, yeah.
It's a very...
The whole I will not be racing for Alpine next year is the big thing, isn't it? Because that's like, well, where are you racing? Why are you not racing at Alpine? They're like a pretty decent midfield team. They're not like, you know, Williams or Aston Martin.
They're battling McLaren for 4th in the championship.
Yeah, I mean, both of them are sort of consistently in the points. So there's
not a huge amount of development allowed until the new engine's in 26.
Yeah, I mean that's the next big reg change. I don't know what they can do in between that time.
But I mean, it's not incredibly likely that either Alpine or McLaren will be up there challenging for championships before then.
Probably not. No.
I mean, there won't be a kind of a massive sea change. It's likely that Mercedes will get on top of their car and it'll be a 3-way fight at the top. So
yeah, like it has been for the last 10 years, pretty much.
Yeah, and those 6 drivers in the top 3 teams are locked in. So it kind of, again, it's hard to understand what Piastri was actually playing at, because there's not a vast amount to choose between McLaren and Alpine.
Yeah, it's weird. But McLaren have been signing many drivers from like IndyCar. They've got like Pato O'Ward and Colton Herta and Alex Palou, I think, who's like in a court battle now with Chip Ganassi because McLaren signed him a contract and Chip Ganassi said no. We want you. And
I think he actually had 2 contracts signed.
Yeah, and now Chip Ganassi is suing him for like breach of contract or something.
And it's pretty much the same as...
Yeah, it's weirdly similar to what Piastri's playing at.
Because the rumours are that Piastri has 2 signed contracts now, one with Alpine and one with McLaren.
But that also means that what about Ricciardo? And he's like looking for a big settlement to break his contract.
Yeah.
But if he does that, where does he go?
Back to Alpine?
Maybe. That would be kind of weird though. He could go to Williams actually.
Well, that would not be a big forward step in anybody's career though, would it? I mean, there must be something in the team culture at Alpine that Piastri doesn't like.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, he's been... I think he won Formula Renault?
Yeah, Formula Renault Euro Cup. And then Formula 3 and then Formula 2, I believe, off the top of my head.
All sponsored. I mean, Otmar Schaffner has said when the summer break is over, he's going to the High Court in London.
Yeah, because they think Piastri broke his contract.
Well, it's not only that he broke his contract, again, it comes down to, as everything in F1 does, the money.
Yeah.
He spent a vast amount of money. He wanted a driver.
Yeah.
If he's not going to get the driver, he wants his money back.
Yeah.
It's the same as like any kind of contract at all, you know. It's like if I signed a mortgage and spent a vast amount of money and then somebody said, no, you can't have the house. I'd be in the courts saying, well, I want the house or I want the money. I don't want to spend the money and not get anything.
Yeah, and you can understand why they want to keep Alonso at least, because he's a champion and everything. But why not just swap out Piastri for Ocon? Like, why is Ocon so important that he's still there? And like, is he bringing a huge amount of money?
He's French.
I suppose.
French driver in a French team.
Yeah. Is that like the most important thing?
He's not.
Would they? I mean, he's not bad, but
he's the last person to have won for Alpine.
I think he's the only person to have won for Alpine, if I'm right.
Yeah, can you pull up the standings for 2022?
Ocon. Actually, he's ahead of Alonso.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought so. He's P8. He's 58 points.
He's kind of second best of the rest. If he gets his act together, he could have 7th off Norris. It's not unthinkable.
What's Norris on? 70?
76.
And 58.
Yeah.
So...
It's got a fair gap to Alonso.
And the other thing is that we never see, if his personality and well-being and mental health and all of that stuff, if he's happy there...
Yeah, why would they get rid of him?
Yeah, I mean, look at Bottas. Look at how much happier Bottas is at Alfa Romeo. He's attacking, He
said it, he's the happiest he's been because it's the first time in his whole career he's had a multi-year contract.
Yeah. Which
is kind of bizarre that Mercedes kept him for like 4 or 5 years on a rolling 1-year contract. So every year around the summer break he had to renegotiate and it took his mind off it.
Yeah, and every year people were saying, oh, has Bottas' performance been good enough?
Yeah, there were people calling for Russell to come up even from his first year, I think, in Williams. So he's much more settled now. He doesn't have to worry about it. And
you know, if Ocon is happy and if the team are happy and if he... I mean, there's loads of stuff to being a driver other than putting it in fast laps. I mean, if he might be really good technically, he might be giving awesome feedback to the engineers. He might just be that people like him and he's happy to be around.
It is good for the team culture. Yeah, maybe more so than Alonso.
Also, if he's in contract, he's in contract, you know?
Yeah, but it just is kind of like, I can see why Piastri would be annoyed because he won the F2 2021 championship and he got postponed for a year because of Alonso. And now this year he probably went to Alpine and they said, well, we're going to negotiate with Alonso and we'll see how it goes. And they were going to give Alonso an option for the next year. And if you're Piastri, you're sitting there thinking, I might not even have a seat in 2024, which is like 3 years after I won F2 on my first go. Where am I supposed to go? So maybe he's just started looking for other options and then got like a good prospect at McLaren and refused Alpine.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of... I think it's impatience because, I mean, Alpine were doing all the right things. They were keeping him up to date with his skills. They were...
Yeah, they're developing him fairly well. They could have put him in like Formula E or IndyCar or something to keep him busy.
Maybe he didn't want to. Maybe he's focused on...
I mean, are racing drivers particularly well known for their patience?
Well, no. But at the moment, he's not... Nothing's been officially said as to whether he is... No doubt. As soon as we finish recording this, we'll get the news that he's signed for like Mercedes and Hamilton's going to AlphaTauri or whatever. Yeah, I'm looking at this graphic you got up here. So apart from the whole Piastri mess,
the Oscar fiasco, yes.
Bottas is definite.
Yeah, because he's multi-year. He's like settled.
Oh, Magnussen. I thought he was just a temporary for Marzipan.
I think they might have re-signed him. I don't really know, actually.
I mean, I think he's done brilliantly for Haas.
Oh yeah,
given that he had very little prep.
He scored more points. He scored more points in the first race than they did in the last 3 seasons, I think, because he came 5th.
Yeah.
I also think Haas played the development game correctly with basically binning off last season and making like a really decent midfield car.
And I can't imagine Haas ditching Mick Schumacher. Nearly said Michael there, showing my age.
Yeah.
I can't imagine Haas ditching Mick Schumacher. I think again he's
done what he does in Formula 2, which is the second half of the second season he's turned into an absolute monster.
Yeah, and again it's like the other teams. I think he's their development driver. I think he's the one they want to keep for years and bring up.
Yeah, I also think Ferrari might poach him if they get fed up of Sainz, but Sainz is pretty good as well when he wants to be.
Sainz is...
He's 4th, he's 5th, he's a little bit behind Russell, but you can put that down to Ferrari's reliability. He's like, a race win behind Leclerc, which is not bad.
Yeah. I noticed AlphaTauri as well have got 2 blanks.
Well, AlphaTauri are kind of a bit of a wild card because of Red Bull. But if Red Bull's kind of full, there's nowhere for Gasly or Tsunoda to go.
No, and I can't see the Verstappen... Perez has been a bit uninspiring recently.
Yeah, but he can be a very, very good second driver when he wants to be. And he can, defend Hamilton. And he's a very good Barrichello.
Yeah, he's never going to be that exciting. Oh, I think Bottas was a bit naff as a second driver because he didn't have that aggressive streak.
Yeah, he was good when they were dominant because he could just cruise up into second place every now and then.
But if you had to fight and scrap for it, Bottas...
Yeah, he didn't really do what he needed to. But Perez is being a pretty decent Barrichello.
Yeah, he's definitely being a good support driver.
I mean, what is he, second now in the championship? Almost. He's 5 points off of Leclerc.
Yeah.
And that must have secured them the constructors by a worrying margin. Actually, it's like 100 points.
Yeah, I mean
actually Ferrari are threatened by Mercedes.
Yeah,
now.
Ferrari are looking backwards, not forwards in the constructors.
That's not great.
I've seen headlines. I've not clicked on them. There's some whispers about where Zhou might end up. He's not contracted to Alpha, and he might be part of the whole shuffly around. You said that Albon's a definite at Williams.
Yeah, Albon and
Alonso's a definite at
Aston Martin.
Will Lawrence sack his own son?
I don't think so. I think that normally they like to announce their lineup all in one go, but I think the Alonso thing was sort of like a special case.
Well, I think Vettel caught everybody napping.
Pretty much, yeah. And that's the one big move that has caused the silly season to go very silly. Yeah,
I think Vettel's really interesting because he said one of the big decisions was environmental.
Yeah,
because he's getting more and more into kind of green issues, and I mean, to be honest, here in the UK we've just come off the end of another week-long heat wave, so it's kind of hard to ignore. But he said he can't really square with his conscience just being in a sport that not only, okay, they're moving to sustainable fuel for the cars in 2026, but his lifestyle is probably 8, 9, maybe 10 months of the year just flying all over the world, staying in hotels, getting taxis.
It's the logistics and the flying and the lorries that do the most damage from Formula 1.
Yeah,
because don't they use a weird synthetic fuel now, don't they?
What, in the lorries?
No, in the cars themselves. It's not like normal road fuel for sure. And I think actually because they're hybrid, they're not. One race is not that bad. I think going between 2 races is much worse than the actual cars themselves.
But how many people are there in a pit garage?
Oh god, there's like upwards of 30 probably.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
and there's
the entire F1
at least
circus.
2 or 3 articulated lorries full of stuff.
And it's not just each team, it's the FIA as well.
Yeah.
They've got their own personnel.
I mean, like, to quickly switch...
Liberty Media and everything, yeah.
The Tour de France, which is cycling, actually had environmental protesters gluing themselves to the roads to disrupt it. Yeah. Which sounds daft because it's promoting cycling, but they have a village of about 2,000 people.
Yeah,
that
we saw that
moves
thing
with them.
about the amount of cars that are actually on the road next to the cyclists.
It's it's up in the same region of this.
It's like 100 odd vehicles.
It's like almost one car per cyclist.
Almost, yeah, because they've got each of them have got what, 2 or 3 team cars.
Yeah,
and there's like a bunch of motorbikes for filming and stuff.
And there's press cars, and there's
the director sportif
and the commissaire's cars who look after the race. So it's all the infrastructure around it, and it's the same with Formula One.
Yeah, it's not necessarily the actual racing. It's
moving all. I mean, you look at the pits and all the screens and the mechanic stuff and the tool chests are all moved there, and they've got motorhomes as well to live in now, haven't they?
Well, that's why Extreme E is so cool, because they get to every race sustainably.
Oh, they've got like a big kind of floating cruise ship. Yeah,
they've got this big ship that runs off sustainable fuels. They sail to every race in like bizarre remote locations.
Are you sure it's Formula E and not a supervillain from a film?
Extreme E.
Extreme E. It does sound like a supervillain. I've got my base that floats around the world and goes to locations and nobody ever knows quite where it is.
I'm pretty sure they tweeted at Sebastian Vettel. He doesn't have Twitter, but they tweeted saying that they've got a seat available if he wants to race sustainably. Because like Rosberg and Hamilton and Button are all involved in it. It would be like kind of the old guard Formula One retirement home, which is kind of like what Formula E is, but for the young ones.
Yeah, well, Formula E is where you go and wait for your slot in Formula One.
That too, yeah. Because speaking of that, Formula E's Mercedes' Formula E team is kind of capitulating and turning into McLaren Formula E. And as a result, neither of their drivers are contracted next year. And there is a spare Williams seat. And Mercedes have been putting Nick de Vries into their free practice because he's a young Mercedes driver.
Oh, and we just this morning watched Stoffel van Dorn win the Formula E Championship.
Yeah, World Championship.
So he's now a world champion, so he might be sniffing around all these empty slots and seeing where he could come back in, because he was blistering. He was in the wrong car at the wrong time, but he's a
really good driver. He's definitely got loads of potential.
And I don't know how old he is now. He's probably mid-20s.
He's not young, I don't think. No,
well, I mean, he's not stupid young.
No, he's not like 18. He's 30. Oh, that's a bit older than I thought.
Well, still,
he's still
if
actually.
you sign him up, we could get a good 8-10 years out of him.
Nick is 27.
Yeah.
And now, oh god, now look at this. Google's like suggesting a million different random drivers, like Sergei Sorokin, because I searched 2 in a row.
Yes. Google knows what you're thinking.
Yes.
I probably covers it for the silly season market.
Well, there's the AlphaTauri thing, which is like, what does Tsunoda do? Because does he want to stay at AlphaTauri forever? I think Gasly actually does, because he likes it there. Because we saw when he was up against Verstappen, he was like struggling.
To be honest, having watched for a while, Perez is the first teammate who, on the surface, appears to be surviving Verstappen.
Yeah, I think Ricciardo managed a year or two, didn't he?
He managed a year or two, and then he bailed out to Renault.
Yeah, Renault. So Verstappen, it was them two for 16, 17 and 18, and then Ricciardo left. Gasly got quite annihilated, as did Albon, and they both ended up either out of the sport altogether or in a lower team. And yeah, Perez has kind of sat with him.
But I mean, Verstappen...
He is the teammate eater.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like Hamilton needs a good wingman, and Bottas wasn't happy, but he stuck it out. But Verstappen just seems to... There's something about the culture in the team.
It's a very Verstappen-centred team, and I think Ricciardo wasn't happy being the number 2.
Yeah.
And I think Albon and Gasly weren't given the attention they needed.
No.
Sort of nurturing. But yeah, Gasly can stay at AlphaTauri quite happily. Although he is French.
Yeah, but... Actually, Alpine are short of driver, aren't they?
They are, yeah. I mean, if they're looking, that's the other side of the Oscar fiasco, is who do Alpine get into that seat?
I mean, it's weird for Otmar Schaffner, because 2 weeks ago he had a big problem in that he had 3 really good drivers and only 2 seats.
And now he's got... At least Ocon stayed.
He's got 1 driver and 2 seats.
Yeah.
So he is
what happens at AlphaTauri? There are quite a few F2 drivers hanging around.
Yeah, I mean, AlphaTauri is a good feeder team. They're really used to taking in
like complete rookies, like my age pretty much, which is a bit worrying.
Yeah.
How old is... I'm just going to have a look at the F2 standings and see who's actually racing and who's in what team. I think Dennis Hauger is... You can see the Red Bull on him there. And unfortunately he was born in 2003, so that's a bit worrying. But I think he won... Yeah, he won Formula 3 last year. He's not exactly troubling the championship yet, so he'll probably need another year. Drugovic, I don't know who he's associated with, but I'm pretty sure that Deruvula is... You can see Red Bull on him again.
Yeah.
Deruvula is Red Bull, and so he could come up.
I mean, the thing is, with the silly season, there's plenty of people who are waiting for their slot in F1.
Yeah, speaking of French, there's Pourchaire as well, who's also born in 2003, God, but is like... he's also kind of like a prodigy, actually. I think he's actually kind of like... He lost out to Dennis Hauger. Yeah, he lost out to Dennis Hauger in Formula 4. I don't know if he won Formula 4 or not, actually. But he's kind of at the top level of Formula 2 now. He's like fighting for the championship. So he could move up to Alpine.
And I think the other thing that we're forgetting is Jamie Chadwick.
Yeah.
Who is kind of doing either, depending on your age, a Hamilton or a Schumacher to... Is it called W Series?
Yeah, W Series. But W Series is kind of a slightly below Formula 3, which is a bit... kind of disappointing.
But I mean,
that's 7 races in a row,
and then a second.
Actually, that's consistent podium since the second race of last year up until now.
Yeah, I'm sure it's got to be worth getting her into an FP1 at least to see if she can handle the Formula 1 car.
That's 13 podiums in a row.
I mean, that clearly shows that she's way, way, way above the rest of the W Series.
Oh yeah, she's like dominating quite comfortably. She's got more than double the points of Alice Powell, who's pretty good. But Jamie Chadwick is 24. Actually, that's not a bad age to start.
No.
She's a development driver for Williams.
And again,
if they don't put her in an FP1, that's kind of stupid, I think. Because again, they get the whole sort of press of the first woman to participate, probably since Susie Wolff in 2014.
Oh, they should do it in the Saudi, just for the...
I think we've had Saudi, unfortunately,
I know.
already. Let's have a look at the... Where could they do it that would be funny? We've got Belgium next. I mean, there's always Abu Dhabi.
Or Singapore is quite kind of restricted.
Singapore's fairly forward-thinking, aren't they? I don't know.
Yeah,
But Abby Pulling is the next one to keep an eye on, because she is also born in 2003, which, you know, might become one of those like the class of 92 in snooker. Just the class of 03 might just in 10 years' time be sweeping the championships. But yeah, there's like...
But, I mean, she
also
is
they're all
just
British as well, which we have to...
ridiculously...
You know. I think Chadwick has graduated the W Series at this point.
She's outgrown it.
Yeah, she's outgrown it. She needs to be in Formula 3 at the bare minimum.
I mean, I can't...
It's a Formula Regional level, which is, I think... Formula 3.5 basically, so she needs to go up to F3.
Yeah, I can't believe nobody's testing her to see if she can handle
an F1 car
or even an F2. Because I've watched some W Series; it's quite slow.
Yeah, it's also different tyres than Formula. It's different engines and different tyres, so it is a bit slower.
But she got to like move up and see. You know, you never know; she might be rubbish when she gets up to a bigger car.
But I think
it's got to be worth looking at.
The problem with W Series is that it's supposed to be like a training ground to get women to get all the necessary skills around racing. But the person who's very clearly it's worked for the best and who is clearly the best driver cannot get the funding together to actually compete at a higher level.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work. Or it hasn't worked yet, because Chadwick is going to win her 3rd title in a row, and she should have really graduated up as soon as she won the first one, and then let like Alice Powell or Biceca Visser or Abby Pulling win this one.
Yeah.
Actually, damn, that's a close battle for second. That's like 3 points between the
second, third, and fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's just there's less points.
Well, let's
available.
hope we see him in the next couple of years in, a proper series, because there's no reason why she shouldn't be up there competing with the men. There's nothing.
Yeah, again, it's just money is the only problem.
But
really.
you think there'd be a big sponsorship uplift and a big popularity uplift? Just novelty value if nothing else. It would be talked about a lot. You get your logo up on people's screens. So, I think, should we wrap this up now? Because we could just literally sit here for the whole day.
Well, we could do that as well. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of unsure what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's a weird time to do it because.
What is your final prediction for the other Alpine seats?
Actually, I think they might bring somebody up out of another formula.
Yeah.
Because I can't see there's anybody.
Well, there has to be overall net. There has to be one new driver because Vettel's gone.
I mean, I can't see they grab Latifi out of Williams because he mainly influences championships by crashing.
Yeah.
I can't see Lawrence sacking his son, so Aston Martin's fairly stable.
Yeah.
Maybe Zhou,
maybe he's kind of in the Ferrari stream, though.
I think Alpine would either win a legal battle and have Piastri there with his arm up his back.
That'd be very awkward, though, wouldn't it? If he had to drive for them.
Or they'll get somebody new in.
I think someone like Pourchaire maybe because he's French, or they'll poach Gasly and we'll have a Red Bull Junior go up alongside Tsunoda.
Yeah.
And then someone like De Vries into Williams, or Stoffel, actually. It would be quite a good weekend if he won the Formula E Championship and got to drive in F1 again.
And also, where's Ricciardo going to go? Because it's fairly much agreed, then arguing over numbers to boot him.
Yeah. To get Piastri in there. But then where does Ricciardo go? It would be a bit sad for him to just go out, leave F1 kind of on a technicality with contracts. And he is pretty good, even if he's not been in a very comfortable car recently.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Webber's behind Piastri.
Yeah.
And they said this is the other thing that might happen, is that Mark Webber might then never be able to place another driver in a team again.
Why?
Well, because of all those fuss he's caused with Piastri and legal cases.
Yeah.
If Mark Webber then champions, because he's got sports management business.
Yeah.
With his best mate and his wife, I think.
Mm-hmm.
However this settles out, if Mark Webber comes to you as a team boss and goes, oh, look, I've got this hot up-and-coming driver, you might go,
well, Jack Doohan is... Jack Doohan's Australian. Liam Lawson is New Zealand, as is Armstrong. Callan Williams is Australian. Yeah, so there's a fair few Aussies and Kiwis in the F2 at the moment.
So I think the best prediction is, who knows? Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah.
Well, probably next one I think we should do a review of this half of the 2022 season before the summer break.
Yeah, hopefully we do it before the summer break ends.
And then we'll maybe start doing race by race reviews if we can work out how to do that.
Yeah, we'll definitely do an end of the season one at least.
Yeah.
Where we just talk about the whole thing and, how Latifi came from nowhere to become the world champion.
I don't think that's even mathematically possible anymore.
Well, we can check actually. How many races are there? We've got 14 out of 22, so we've got, that's
8 left.
9, because we've got this one as well.
So he could score 225.
234.
Laps.
He could score 234 points.
Yeah, he can't do it, I don't think.
234, I believe. Oh, Verstappen's up to 258. So, hang on. 258 minus 234. You need 24 points to be in it. So, Alonso could still win. Everyone below him, which is 11th down to 21st, can't.
Oh, he's assuming, of course, that Max Verstappen breaks an arm or something, because the thought of Max Verstappen zeroing out on the next 9 races is kind of
unthinkable. I think he's pretty much wrapped it up at this point.
Yeah.
Unless Ferrari fire their entire strategy department and get a new one.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah.
Okay then.
That'll be that.
And we'll be back soon with a wrap up of the 2022 first half of the season.
The first half, it's 9 out of 22 races.
Well, they call it the first half because there's a big 3-week break.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening.
Goodbye.